Walked through the glass doors of Westbrook High School and everything felt wrong. The air was too clean. The hallways were too quiet. The other students moved with a strange grace, like they had never known real fear in their lives. She was right, they hadn't. The Vex were a peaceful people. They had eliminated violence from their society 300 years ago. They had built cities that never suffered earthquakes. They had created technology that prevented most accidents. They lived in a world where nothing could hurt them badly enough to matter. When stepped into their school, she brought something they had never seen before. She brought the reality of her name was announced in the morning assembly like she was a museum exhibit. This year, Westbrook High is proud to host a human student from Earth. She is part of our Galactic Integration program designed to promote understanding between our species. The administrator, a tall Vex male named Rector, smiled like he was introducing a new art installation. Sat in the front row of the assembly hall and felt every eye turned toward her. The other students stared with open curiosity. They whispered to each other, pointing at the scars on her arms. They looked at her clothes, simple and practical with cargo pockets, and smiled with the kind of pity you give to someone stuck in the past. She was 16 years old. She had survived 3 brushes with death. She had fought off a forest fire using nothing but intelligence and quick thinking. She had sat through her first school day at her old academy in Tokyo knowing that one mistake could mean no graduation, no future, possibly no life. But nothing had prepared her for this. Nothing had prepared her for being studied like she was less than human. By lunchtime had been moved from classroom to classroom, a guest in every single one. Teachers wanted her to stand up and talk about the Earth experience. They asked her about predators. They asked her about weather. One teacher actually asked her if humans lived in caves, answered every question with patience, but inside she felt something building. A pressure, a heat. The same feeling you get when you realize you are alone in a room full of people. The cafeteria was massive with different sections for different food types. Grabbed a tray with simple protein and vegetables. She looked for a place to sit. Several tables had empty seats. When she started walking toward one, the students at that table suddenly stood up and moved to another section. It was not aggressive. It was just dismissive, like they were moving away from something unpleasant. Found herself sitting alone. A group of students approached her table after a few minutes. The leader was a tall Vex male named. He had the kind of face that had never known hard work, never been marked by struggle. His friends stood behind him, curious and a little excited, like they were approaching something dangerous. "Is it really true you fought a bear?" asked. His voice was soft and gentle the way the Vex spoke about everything. But his eyes had something else in them, something like hunger. Looked up from her food. "Yes, when I was 13, my family was hiking and we were too close to its territory." "And you survived?" Sat down without asking permission. "Yes." Hao leaned forward. "A bear is so much stronger than a human. How did you not die?" Put down her food, she decided to give him a real answer. "I ran, and then I hid, and then I waited for the bear to leave. Strength is not the only way to survive. Sometimes thinking is more important than strength." Laughed, his friends laughed with him. "You're funny. That is what makes you interesting. You think you can talk your way out of everything. But what if there is no time? What if the bear just attacks?" "Then I would die," said simply. "Many people on Earth die. Death is not the worst thing that can happen. Living as someone less than yourself is worse." Smile froze for just a moment, then he stood up. "You should come to something tomorrow, a celebration. We want to show you how we do things here at Westbrook, how we handle situations." Felt something shift inside her. This was not a friendly invitation. This was something else. Something that looked like friendliness on the surface but had a different shape underneath. "Okay," she said. Walked away. His friends trailed behind him. When they were gone, sat alone again. But she was not thinking about being alone. She was thinking about the way he had looked at her. The way he had listened to her answer about the bear and then laughed. The way he had invited her to something undefined. On Earth, she had learned that predators did not always attack immediately. Sometimes they tested you first. They pushed you to see how you would respond. They looked for weakness or strength. They decided if you were prey or a competitor. The Vex did not have predators anymore, but they had something else. They had curiosity, and they had the ability to hurt without violence. They had learned how to attack with words and exclusion and judgment instead of claws and teeth. Finished eating and went to her next class, but part of her mind stayed alert. Part of her was already preparing for tomorrow. Part of her was already ready for a fight, even though she did not know what kind of fight it would be. That evening, sat in the refugee quarters that had been given to her. She looked at her data pad and pulled up the file about Vex society. She read about their 300 years of peace. She read about how they had eliminated violent crime. She read about how their schools focused on cooperation and community building. None of it prepared her for what represented. None of it explained why someone in a peaceful society would want to hurt someone else. Thought about her mother back on Earth. Her mother had always said that humans were the most dangerous animals on the planet because they could imagine harm even when they did not need to hurt anyone to survive. Humans hurt because they wanted to, because they were bored, because they felt threatened, because they could. The Vex had built a society that tried to remove the need for harm, but they had not removed the want. They had not removed the part of consciousness that enjoyed power over others. Lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be interesting. Tomorrow would tell her what kind of student she was supposed to be. Tomorrow would show her whether she could survive in a place where survival meant something completely different than it did back home. She thought about the bear. She thought about how she had run because running was the right choice. How she had hidden because hiding kept her alive. How she had waited because patience was a weapon too. The celebration turned out to be nothing. That was what made it so effective. Had organized a lunch gathering in one of the school's social spaces. He told to come at noon, and she did. When she arrived, the place was empty except for and his closest friends. They were standing in a circle, and when walked in, they exchanged looks. Then, without saying a word, they got up and left, smiled at her on his way out. "Sorry, we forgot we had a meeting," he said. His voice was kind, like he felt bad about the mistake. But his eyes said something different. His eyes said this was planned. Was left standing alone in an empty room. It took her 2 seconds to understand what had happened. This was how the Vex hurt people. This was their weapon, exclusion, invisibility, making someone feel like they did not matter enough to even bother with. By the next day, everyone at school knew about it. Overheard students talking about how it invited the human girl and then ditched her. How funny it was that she thought she was important enough to spend time with them. How stupid she must be. The next week, things got worse. Found notes in her locker. They were not threatening. They were just pointed. "Did you take a shower today? Your clothes are so strange. Do they not have normal fashion on Earth? Were your parents really as savage as you seem?" Each note was written in a friendly tone, like the person cared about her feelings. But the point was sharp. They wanted her to know that she did not belong. In classes, when she raised her hand to answer questions, several students would groan quietly. Not enough for a teacher to hear. Just enough for to hear. Just enough for everyone around her to notice and smile at the inside joke. Had not done all of this himself. He had created something more dangerous than any one person's cruelty. He had created a culture of it. He had made it so that being mean to became a way for students to show they were part of the group, that they understood the social rules, that they were smart enough to see what saw. Went to eat lunch by herself in the library. She sat at a table in the corner with her food and tried to read. But even there, students would walk past and whisper. She heard them say things. She heard them laugh. One girl sat down next to her. Her name was, and she was not part of group. "You should say something," said. "You should tell a teacher." "No," said. "Why not? They are being cruel to you." Looked at, because if I report them now, I prove that I am weak. I prove that I cannot handle what they are doing, and then it will get worse. Did not understand. How could she? On the Vex world, if someone hurt you, you reported it, and the system dealt with it. Cruelty was supposed to be impossible. Rules were supposed to protect everyone. The idea that complaining could make things worse was a concept that did not exist in Vex society. But understood it. She had grown up in a world where the strong took advantage of the weak constantly, where showing weakness was an invitation for more pain, where the only way to survive was to project strength, even when you felt like breaking. 2 weeks into the campaign against her, grades started to slip, not because she was stupid, but because she could not concentrate. Her mind was always partly focused on the next insult, the next exclusion, the next moment of being made invisible. She sat in Professor Yale's environmental science class, and Yale asked her a question about water filtration systems. Had studied the material. She knew the answer. But when she opened her mouth, all she could think about was sitting 3 seats to her right, smiling. She got the answer wrong, raised his hand and got it right. The class applauded. Yale gave him a nod of approval. After class approached in the hallway, "That was interesting," he said. "I thought you were supposed to be smart." Did not respond, she kept walking. That night, coordinator came to see her. Was the human liaison, the person responsible for making sure that was okay. She was not Vex. She was in a species that had learned how to live with peace but also with honesty. "I have received reports," said carefully. "Students say that you are having difficulty adjusting, that you seem sad." "I am fine," said, but her voice was flat. "You are not fine, your energy is different. Your participation is different." Sat down, she felt something breaking inside her. The pressure that had been building for 2 weeks was suddenly too much. "They are attacking me," she said. "All of them and his friends started it, but now everyone does it. They make notes. They exclude me. They make me feel like I do not matter." Listened, when finished, nodded. "I understand. This is difficult for you because on Earth you would respond with physical force, but that is not how things work here." "I know," said, "but that does not make it hurt less." "No," agreed. "It does not. I will file a report with the administration. This violates the terms of your integration program. There will be an assembly. The students will be warned." The assembly happened the next day. Rector stood in front of the entire school and talked about inclusion. He talked about respect. He talked about how harassment was not acceptable behavior. He used words like inappropriate and concerning. He never once said's name. After the assembly, everything got worse. Found her in the hallway and smiled. "Congratulations," he said. "You got us all in trouble. Now everyone is angry at you." And he was right. The other students were angry, not at she had broken the social rule. She had gone to adults. She had caused trouble. In a society that valued peace and cooperation, she had made everything uncomfortable. By the end of the 3rd week was completely alone. At lunch, she sat with no one. In classes, students positioned their bodies away from her. Even the teachers seemed colder, like they blamed her for the disruption to their peaceful school. One afternoon, sat in the refugee quarters and looked at her data pad. She could request a transfer. She could ask to go back to Earth. She could admit that this had been a mistake, that humans could not fit into Vex society, that the experiment had failed. She picked up the device to send the message, but then she stopped. Something in her refused to break. Something in her refused to accept that had the right to define what she was. Something in her refused to accept that being different meant being wrong. She put the device down and made a decision. She would not leave. She would not hide. She would not let them have the satisfaction of driving her away. Instead, she would change the game completely. She would not fight them where they had power. She would go somewhere else. Somewhere where intelligence mattered more than social position. Somewhere where achievement could not be easily dismissed. Did not join all 5 programs at once. That would have been too obvious. That would have looked like she was running away from the pain. Instead, she started with one. The Environmental Research Club met on Wednesdays after school. Only 3 students showed up regularly, and none of them were part of group. The club leader was a quiet Vex male named David. He was working on a project about water systems in the school's agricultural facility. He seemed surprised when asked if she could join. "Of course," David said. "Everyone is welcome." Spent the first meeting listening. She watched how the system worked. The water came from underground reserves. It was filtered through sand and chemical processors. It was then distributed to the growing areas. The system was efficient, but it was also fragile. If anything broke, it would take days to fix because only one person really understood all of it. After the meeting approached David. "Can I see the maintenance logs?" she asked. David showed her the records, spent the next hour reading them. She saw patterns that David had not noticed. She saw redundancies and weak points. She saw how the system had been designed by someone who never expected it to fail. The next Wednesday brought sketches. She had designed a new system. It was more complex in some ways, but it was also more accessible. Anyone could maintain it. If one part failed, the rest would keep working. David looked at her drawings for a long time. "This is very advanced," he said finally. "Where did you learn to do this?" "On Earth, systems have to be built so that people can fix them," explained. "If something breaks and you cannot fix it, the entire community suffers, so we build differently." David took her designs to the school administration. 2 weeks later, they approved her plan, became the lead designer for a complete overhaul of the school's water system. She was now more than just a student. She was a project lead. Heard about it, of course. Everyone heard about it. But he could not make fun of her for designing a better system. He could not exclude her from an achievement. What he could do was watch and wait. Meanwhile, joined the debate team. The first competition was about environmental policy. Her team was assigned to argue that Vex civilization was more sustainable than Earth civilization. It was a position disagreed with, but that was the point of debate. You had to argue what you were given. On the day of the competition, made an argument that surprised everyone. She said that the Vex had created a sustainable system, but only because they had eliminated most of the challenges that would require them to adapt. She said that Earth was being forced to innovate constantly because the environment would kill you if you did not. She said that both systems had value, but neither was superior to the other. Then she said something that made people uncomfortable. The Vex have created peace, she said. But peace built on the elimination of challenge is not peace. It is stagnation. Real peace is when you face conflict and choose not to respond with violence. Real peace is when you have the power to hurt and you choose not to. The Vex have never had that choice. They have never had the power. That is different from choosing peace. Her team won the competition. The judges said it was because had presented a perspective that was both respectful and challenging. What they really meant was that had told them a truth they did not want to hear, and they had respected her for it. By the fourth week, had 2 significant achievements. By the 6th week, she had 4. She won a regional environmental design competition. She was selected for an advanced mathematics program. She gave a presentation about Earth survival strategies to the cultural studies class, and students asked her to give it again. Watched all of this. She could see it in his eyes. He was calculating. He was trying to figure out how to destroy these achievements the way he had tried to destroy her. Then it happened. Approached her in the hallway with a smile that looked almost friendly. He said, "I want you to know that I think you have done really well. Your environmental project is impressive. I have been talking to some people, and I want to apologize for how I treated you before." His instinct was to reject this, but something told her to listen. "I made a mistake," continued. "I was intimidated by you, by someone who was so different, but I have realized that difference is actually valuable. I would like to start over. I want to be your friend." It was the most dangerous thing he had said to her yet. Had grown up around predators, not the 4-legged kind, the 2-legged kind, people who smiled while they planned to hurt you, people who said they were sorry while they were planning the next attack. She recognized this tactic. It was called establishing trust before the final strike. "Thank you for apologizing," said carefully. "I am glad you understand that my work is valuable." "It really is," said. "Your water system design is exceptional. I was reading about it and I noticed something interesting. You used a lot of design elements from the Vex archives. The backup filtration system is almost exactly like one from the database from 12 years ago. You probably just forgot to credit it." There it was, the strike. "I did not use the Vex archive design," said. Her voice was steady. "Oh, I am not saying you did it on purpose," said quickly. His tone was pure concern. "I just think you should probably cite your sources. It would be better for your reputation." By that afternoon, rumors were spreading, had plagiarized. She had stolen designs from Vex databases. She was not actually intelligent. She was just a copier. She was a fraud. The rumors reached the judges of the regional competition. They reached Professor Yale, who ran the environmental program. They reached Rector. They reached Coordinator. That night, Coordinator came to his room with the news that an investigation had been opened. "The accusation is baseless," said firmly. "I have already this, but there will be questions. There will be doubt. That is the point of the attack. Understands that in your world you can defend yourself physically. But here he has learned that you cannot defend yourself against doubt. You cannot fight a reputation. You can only endure it." Lay in her bed that night and felt something she had not felt in weeks. Despair. Not because she had plagiarized, but because she realized that had studied her. He had waited. He had watched her build something real, and then he had attacked it at the moment when she could not defend it without making herself look defensive. She thought about giving up. She thought about going home. She thought about accepting that humans and the Vex simply could not coexist peacefully. The assembly was called for the next morning. Rector made the announcement during the morning broadcast. "We will be holding a special assembly to address recent questions about academic integrity. All students must attend." Thought it was to address plagiarism case. Thought this was his victory. He had maneuvered her into a position where the entire school would witness her being accused. He had made it so that even if she was found innocent, people would always wonder. They would always have doubt. Sat in the back of the assembly hall that morning. Around her, students whispered. Some looked at her with pity, others with suspicion. Sat in the middle section with his friends, and when he saw her, he smiled. It was the smile of someone who believed he had won. Rector came to the stage and tapped the microphone. The hall became quiet. "We are here because someone has made a serious accusation," Rector began. "An accusation of academic fraud. Before we proceed, I want to show you something." Has provided the school with complete documentation of her work process. Every sketch, every draft, every stage of development. With permission, we are going to review this documentation together. The screens around the hall lit up. They showed design process from start to finish. They showed her initial sketches, which were completely different from the Vex archive design. They showed her notes explaining her thinking. They showed the exact moment where she had made each change and why. They showed problems she had discovered and how she had fixed them. They showed a process that could not have been more human in its approach. It was messy and nonlinear and filled with failure. "This is not the work of someone copying an archive design," Rector said. "This is the work of someone solving a problem from first principles. The Vex archive design that was mentioned is from 12 years ago. This design addresses problems that did not even exist in the old system. She was not copying. She was improving." The assembly hall was silent. Every student was watching the screens. Every student could see the truth. Rector continued. "There has also been an investigation into who started the accusation, who made the false claim about plagiarism. The person who did this will face disciplinary action. This kind of lying about academic work is taken very seriously in our school." His face had gone white. His friends stopped looking at him. "However," Rector said, "before we proceed with punishment, I think we should hear from herself. Would you like to address the school?" Walked to the stage. She was not nervous. She had faced real danger on Earth. She had fought her way out of situations where the outcome could have been death. This was just talking. She looked out at the assembly. She looked at the teachers. She looked at the students who had been cruel to her and the ones who had ignored her and the few who had shown kindness. "I came to this school as someone strange," began. Her voice was clear and strong. "I came from a different world with different rules, different ways of surviving. For the first few weeks, I was excluded. I was made to feel like I did not belong. I was treated like I was less than you because I was different." She paused. She let that sink in. "Then I realized something," continued. "Being different did not mean being wrong. Being from Earth did not mean I was stupid or weak or less valuable. It meant I had different knowledge, different experience, different ways of solving problems. So I decided not to fight. I decided to show you what I could do." Gestured to the screens showing her design process. "This is my work, every part of it. I did not copy anything. I solved a problem using the way I was taught to solve problems on Earth. I looked at a system that did not work perfectly and I asked myself what would happen if it broke. Then I designed something that would not break so easily. That is what humans do. We prepare for failure. We build for disaster. We never assume that everything will always go perfectly." She turned to look directly at. "Someone tried to destroy this by spreading lies. Someone tried to make people doubt me. But doubt does not actually hurt the truth. It just slows it down." His voice got harder, not angry, but real, not soft, not gentle, human. "On Earth, when someone attacks you, you can fight back physically. You can hit them and they hurt, and you both understand the rules of conflict. But here, the Vex have eliminated physical violence. So you have invented something new. You have invented a kind of violence made of words and exclusion and doubt. You have become very good at hurting people without ever touching them. But you have also become very weak at actually facing people who refuse to be hurt." The assembly hall was completely silent now. Even the teachers seemed shocked by the directness of what she was saying. "I am not angry at," said, and she meant it. "I am angry at what your society taught him. You taught him that being smart means destroying other people's achievements. You taught him that winning means making someone else lose. You taught him that peace means the absence of conflict, not the strength to face conflict without hurting each other." Walked across the stage. She stopped in front of the screens showing her work. "This is what I can do. This is what humans can do when we are given a real problem to solve. We innovate. We adapt. We find ways to make things better. But we do this best when we are not afraid, when we are not being attacked, when people believe in us instead of doubting us." She looked back at the assembly. I am asking you to change something, not just at this school, but in how you think about strength. True strength is not the ability to hurt people with words. True strength is the ability to see that someone is different and not need to destroy them for it. Real peace is not the absence of conflict. Real peace is having the power to hurt someone and choosing not to. Real peace is having the power to destroy someone's reputation and choosing to believe in them instead. Turn to look at Rector. I am also asking you to give a chance to choose better. He made a mistake. He made a bad choice, but that does not have to be who he is forever. On Earth, we understand that everyone is capable of being better. Sometimes it just takes seeing the truth to change. She walked back to her seat in the middle of the assembly, not the back where she had started. Every eye in the room followed her. The assembly ended without any further announcements. Students filed out quietly. There was no celebration. There was no anger. There was just the weight of what had been said. After the assembly, Professor Yale approached. "That was extraordinary," the professor said. "I have never heard anyone speak truth so directly in this school." "Is it against the rules?" asked. "No, it is just rare. It makes people uncomfortable. The Vex do not like being uncomfortable." "Humans do not like it either," said. "But we know that if you are never uncomfortable, you never change." That afternoon was sitting in the library when found her. He looked different, smaller somehow, like something had collapsed inside him. "I lied," said. He did not sit down, he just stood there. "I made up the accusation about plagiarism. I did it because I wanted to hurt you. I wanted to make you leave." "I know," said. "But then you showed everyone everything. You proved that you were honest, and I looked like a liar." "Yes," said. "Why did you tell them not to punish me? At the assembly, you asked them to give me a chance." Thought about this? She thought about the bear she had encountered when she was 13. She thought about how the bear had not been evil. It had just been following its nature. It had seen as a threat to its territory. It had responded the way bears respond. That did not make the B3 months after the assembly stood in front of the school again, but this time it was not in a crisis. This time she was receiving an award. The Leadership in Innovation Award was one of the most prestigious honors that Westbrook High could give to a student. It was given to people who had changed something important at the school, people who had made things better. Was the youngest person to ever receive it. She was also the first non-Vex to receive it. Rector called her name and the entire assembly stood up. They applauded. It was a gesture of respect that had never expected to receive in this place. When took the stage to accept the award, she looked out and saw many faces that had changed over the past 3 months. Was sitting in the front row. He had become one of his closest friends. They spent time together studying environmental systems, had even joined the Environmental Research Club. "This award is not really about me," began. She held the plaque but did not look at it. "It is about something that this school learned. It is about the fact that you can be peaceful and still be strong. You can eliminate violence and still choose to be kind. You can be different and still have value." Set the plaque down. "When I came here, your school tried to teach me to be like you. You tried to show me that my way of thinking, my way of solving problems, my way of understanding the world was wrong. I could have believed you. Many people would have. But I did not because I know something you are still learning. The Vex are not wrong, but you are not right either. You are just different. And different is not bad. Different is necessary." She paused. She looked around the assembly. "I have spent my whole life on a planet that tries to kill you, where the weather can destroy your home, where animals can end your life, where other humans sometimes want to hurt you. That kind of environment teaches you to be prepared. It teaches you to look for danger. It teaches you to adapt quickly. On a peaceful world like this, you have learned to trust. You have learned to cooperate. You have learned to solve problems with words instead of violence. Both of these are important skills. Both of these ways of thinking have value." Pick the plaque back up. "I want to tell you about something we do on Earth. We have a saying that goes like this. When you meet violence with violence, you prove that you understand only violence. But when you meet cruelty with excellence, when you respond to attacks with proof of your character, you show that you are something more. You show that you cannot be broken." She looked directly at. "The past 3 months have shown me that the Vex are capable of learning. You are capable of understanding that your way is not the only way. You are capable of seeing value in something different. And that is a kind of strength that is very rare in the galaxy." The assembly ended with another standing ovation, but did not feel proud of the award. The award was just proof that she had survived. The real victory was something more complex. That evening, Coordinator came to see at her quarters, held a data chip. I have been recording your experience here, explained. I would like to send this report to the Galactic Integration Council. They need to understand what happened, not just that it worked, but how it worked. How a single student from Earth came to a Vex school and changed the entire community. I did not change the community, said. The community changed itself, I just refused to disappear. Yes, agreed. That is what makes it important. You showed them that disappearing is always an option, but that there are better options. You showed them that survival is possible without surrendering who you are. Over the next 6 months, things continued to change. The school started a new program called Earth Perspectives. It brought in people who had studied human culture to teach classes about how humans think and solve problems. Became one of the student leaders of the program. Water system design was implemented at schools across the entire Vex territory. Other designs followed. A better food storage system. A more efficient communication network. Simple things that humans took for granted, but that the Vex had never needed to think about because they had never needed to prepare for failure. The most important change was something no one had expected. Students who had been cruel to during those first weeks came to her and apologized. Not because they were forced to, but because they were beginning to understand something important. They were beginning to understand that the person they had tried to hurt had actually been trying to help them learn. By the end of her first year at Westbrook High, had established herself as someone who would not be moved by cruelty, someone who would not be broken by doubt, someone who could take everything that was meant to hurt her and turn it into something that helped everyone around her. Invited her to his home for a celebration. His family was curious about Earth. They asked her questions, real questions, not the mocking questions they had asked through their children. They wanted to understand. I want to go to Earth someday, told her at the end of the evening. I want to see what made you the way you are. You would not survive, said honestly. Earth is dangerous. The weather alone would probably kill you. The diseases would kill you. The predators would kill you. But you survived it, said. Because I was born there, my body is adapted to it. My mind is adapted to it. I know how to think about danger. It is all I knew until I came here. Looked thoughtful. Do you miss it? Considered this. She thought about Earth. She thought about the constant threat, the need to be always alert, the loneliness of growing up in a world where most people did not understand you. Sometimes, she said, but I do not miss it the way I thought I would. I was so angry at that world, I wanted to leave it. I wanted to go somewhere peaceful, but I did not understand that peace without challenge is just emptiness. Peace with challenge, where you choose to be kind anyway, where you choose to connect anyway, where you choose to trust anyway. That is real peace, and I think I am finding that here. 1 year later, received a message from her parents on Earth. She was looking at a video feed of her mother and father in their home in Japan. Both of them looked older than she remembered. Time moved differently when you were on different planets. We are very proud of you, her mother said. Your story is being taught in our schools now. Young people are learning that it is possible to survive among people who are different, that it is possible to be strong without being violent, that it is possible to change the world just by refusing to be changed by it. Her father added something at the end. His voice was emotional in a way that surprised. You came to Earth from the stars, he said, and you went to the stars from Earth. You showed them that we are more than what they thought we were, that we are not just survivors, we are builders, we are innovators, we are people who can make tomorrow better than today. That is the greatest gift you could give us. Closed the message and sat in silence for a long time. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. She thought about Professor Yale. She thought about all the moments where she could have given up but chose not to. The girl from a savage world had come to a school that had tried to break her. She had been targeted. She had been attacked. She had been made to feel invisible. And she had chosen to become something unforgettable instead. Now, a year later, she was planning her next project. A combined Earth-Vex research facility where scientists from both worlds could work together, where different ways of thinking could create new solutions, where the brutal practicality of Earth could meet the infinite possibilities of Vex technology. Walked through the hallways of Westbrook High and students greeted her, not with fear or curiosity anymore, with respect, with friendship, with the simple recognition that she was one of them, different but not less, strange but not wrong, powerful but not dangerous. She had come as a target, she left as a bridge, and the bridge she had built would carry many others between the worlds for years to come. Savage World had taught her strength. The peaceful world had taught her that strength without mercy is just cruelty. Now she would teach both worlds the most important lesson of all, that the most powerful force in any galaxy is not weapons or technology or numbers. It is the refusal to let others define what you are capable of becoming. It is the choice to survive not just physically, but as yourself, unchanged by the cruelty of others, stronger because you have faced it and chosen to be kind anyway. "You're bad," it made the bear a bear. "Because I understand fear," finally answered. "You were afraid of me, of what I represented, of the possibility that someone different could be better than you in some ways. That fear made you cruel. But fear does not have to make you cruel forever. You can choose something different." He sat down and cried, not because it made him feel bad, but because he was finally seeing himself the way he really was. "I want to be different," said. "I want to understand instead of attack." Nodded. "Then we can be friends, real friends, but not the kind of friends I wanted before. The kind where we both work to understand each other instead of one of us trying to destroy the other." Agreed, and by that night something had shifted in the entire school. Not immediately, not completely, but shifted. Students began treating differently, not with pity or curiosity, but with respect. Because she had shown them something they had needed to see. She had shown them that strength and gentleness could exist together, that being different was not a threat. That truth was more powerful than lies. But then she thought about her father. She thought about what he had always told her. When you face your worst moment, that is when you learn who you really are. Got out of bed, she turned on her computer, and she started organizing everything. Every note she had ever taken, every sketch she had ever made, every moment of the design process, every decision and every change. She was going to show them exactly how she had done this. She was going to prove it so thoroughly that there could be no doubt. Had made a mistake. He had given her something to focus on. He had given her a purpose. He had given her a reason to make herself so undeniable that no amount of doubt could touch her. Had come to the Vex world as a target, but she was about to become something much more dangerous. She was about to become someone who could not be stopped. Opened her personal file and looked at the list of school clubs and competitions. She selected 5 different programs: academic competitions, environmental research, debate team, technology innovation, leadership programs. If wanted her to be the subject of his cruelty, she would make herself into something too valuable to destroy. If he wanted her to prove that humans were weak, she would prove exactly the opposite. She was done being a target. It was time to become a threat. But she also thought about what came after the bear. What came when the danger was gone and you had to go back to living with other people. That was the hard part on Earth. That was the part most people never got right. Closed her eyes and made a decision. She would not hide. She would not run. She would show and everyone else at Westbrook High School exactly what a human girl from a savage world was capable of. Not through violence, through something stronger, through refusal, through strength that did not need to hurt anyone to be real. Tomorrow would try to hurt her, and would let him, not because she was weak, but because she was strong enough to survive it, because on Earth that was how you showed people what you really were.